Tangle Whisper Miniseries Issue 2. They go look at a forgotten Eggman bunker, and Tangle makes a fool out of herself by sneaking behind her and talking. And Whisper fortunately lampshades that blindly walking into Mimic's trap would be dangerous. Tangle realizes that it's a corner he has control over that he was backed into, but it's now or never. At least I'm being written to lampshade going into a trap tries to make them look a little smart, but that ship has sailed for Tangle. Tangle tells her to relax, and says the Whisper and him have a history as diamond cutters. It'd be a needlessly confusing name for a gang if it wasn't literal. I assume it means that they're diamond thieves, or have something to do with the diamond mine. I actually skipped all of Mimic's monologue. Why is it even here? I don't fucking care. I don't see a reason to read through this crap. He's a menacing, unlikable villain. I get it. This clearly didn't need to be a part of the story. And it seems unrealistic that he'd say all this stuff anyways. Just get on with it. It could have just cut to him disguising himself as Jewel. The pacing is terrible. Great, so that's her only contribution to the story. She's just another character to be impersonated. So she was just an inconvenience to them. Tangle lampshades that this is a boring trap. Yeah, it is boring. If the writer knew it was, he shouldn't have written it this way. This miniseries will do anything to pad itself out because its plot is too basic. There's so much that they could have just cut. It already told me it's not going to be a creative plot that'll add to this series because it's just another shapeshifting villain, when the plot could have been about anything. And now the heroes go into his trap and don't immediately have to deal with them. Why? She uses her tail to go to a higher place as I'm incredibly bored by the slow pacing of the story. It's not like the dialogue is incredibly charming and interesting and hilarious. Despite knowing that Mimic is manipulative and a shapeshifter, both of them immediately assume that when they hear Jewel's voice when they shouldn't, it's actually Jewel and Mimic kidnapped her. For no reason. It would be a miracle if he even knew who she was. I never saw them in the same room together. It's so cringeworthy to see both Tangle and a supposedly intelligent character fall for it immediately. This is reminding me of the Iron Queen arc where the heroes kept forgetting that the Iron Queen can control technology. And if the heroes brought reinforcements to this place who weren't familiar with Mimic tricking them, like, I don't know, Sonic, or they could explain that Sonic was too busy so he wouldn't overshadow Tangle in the Tangle miniseries, but they could have other characters, like Tails or Amy. They go somewhere and wait. Again, why does there have to be so many panels of this? Nothing's happening! There's no plot at all! She didn't realize that Whisper didn't have her weapon to cover her until it was too late, and a fake Whisper had already kicked her into the safe. He wasn't whispering! She knows Whisper does not talk like this. We could have just cut to this point right after they went into the bunker. And out of nowhere, it turns out Tangle's claustrophobic and doesn't want to use up the air in a vault and pass out. And surprisingly, reading the 2019 annual does nothing to explain this. Well, that's another panel wasted. If the pacing is so slow that it makes the audience impatient in an exciting action series, you failed! Because this is supposed to be a menacing villain, and a lot of the time it's too focused on my boredom to care. At least Whisper wonders if this is really Tangle. She gets given information that the real Tangle would know, and the fake Tangle runs away talking, all because Whisper somehow said instead of just asking her what happened during their Babylon Rogue adventures, which only Tangle would know, and Mimic wouldn't. She would have just said, "That's not enough." So because she's forced to be an idiot, she doesn't think to go check to see if Tangle is locked in a vault or something. So she runs into Mimic's trap, as he's standing on top of a giant robot with a swinging wrecking ball and admitting that he's not really Tangle. You'd think he would at least try to pretend to be Tangle here in an attempt to turn her against her. That was obvious. Even when she's being threatened with the wrecking ball, she still waits the time to put on her mask. I was hoping that at least Tangle and Whisper would have escaped from the constant idiot ball writing, but no. She easily destroys the robot in like one hit with her Wisp-On. Oh well. At least that was fast pacing, but I've still got way too much of this miniseries left for my liking. You'd think they would spend a long time on fighting the robot, not on boring stuff. Mimic tries to shoot at her with a laser from on top of a crate, and Whisper hits her weapon directly and sends her falling off the crate. And that's where the kidnapped damsel in distress Tangle is. Mimic says that while Tangle is safe, he can't say the same for the others, and he says that Whisper failed to protect her old friends. Why is he taunting her? Giving a one-dimensional character a backstory they could have easily not had doesn't make them a deep and fascinating character. Whisper was already sympathetic. We could have easily gone the whole comic without learning this about her. And if you didn't read this miniseries, you'd never learn. So far all it's doing is wasting time in an already padded out story arc with barely any plot, when if they didn't have a path with each other, we would have gone to the next plot event faster. Although if she didn't have a backstory, the miniseries would be even more boring, so at least it's interesting. She smacks Mimic as I wish he took longer than a second to do so. I would have smacked him like the instant he started taunting me. But no, that makes sense. She says Mimic sold them out and she'll make him pay. Mimic says that if Whisper hurries, she might open the safe before Tangle runs out of air. Why would there be so little air in the safe? Why was there a safe there again? Was I actually expected to take Tangle's worry that she'd run out of air seriously? It wasn't supposed to be just a dumb phobia from a past experience, apparently. You know, the artist could have drawn a vacuum of some kind be sucking up the air from the vault. That make it clear that we're supposed to think the tension is real. Good thing for Tangle that this criminal just put her in the vault instead of shooting her with a gun or grabbing and snapping her neck, which she's apparently not above. Good thing for Mimic that Whisper won't just shoot him and cut the miniseries mercifully short, because I guess she really doesn't want Tangle to disapprove of her when she finds out. And that's the only reason. It also turns out that there's bombs that might go off. So why was the air thing even mentioned? The two ideas seem superfluous with each other. This is overkill. So Mimic escapes because Whisper didn't even so much as break his legs, despite apparently being a former gang member. He's evil, so I assume he was always acting evil. She really wants to keep Tangle's approval by making sure he could escape a building alive. When I'm sure she could have just blamed his death on the bombs that blew up the building and said that he just didn't make it out in time. I guess she's a really good person. But I can't be happy about it when the only thing that's going to contribute right now is forcing this arc to last longer. I wasn't this mad about the miniseries and Archie because they weren't horribly dull with idiots for characters. They hide in a vault that protects them from the explosion, and there's some more padding. Though at least it makes Whisper look really sympathetic because she wants Tangle to go home because she's scared of losing another friend. So she cries and sits down. It's sad, but I'd like the plot to move on so Mimic can get defeated already. I don't feel like being told about her past is necessary. Why should I care? Wasn't it obvious that Mimic already told us her past? She says she'll tell her everything. I don't see why we should be shown that. It's just there to make getting through the miniseries take longer. It's cheap to just repeat the same exposition we already saw as a way to have more cutscenes. Wait a minute, this does the same thing as Sonic Colors. We were told you that the Whisper being used for power way too many times. This miniseries was by Ian Flynn. What really made me mad was that Tangle and Whisper immediately bought that Jewel was in the building when she had no reason to be there, and they knew they were dealing with a shapeshifter. So they easily got tricked and had to hide in a vault from an explosion. Even without a few idiot bullets on the characters' parts, which could kinda be forgiven, the biggest problem with the story arc overall was that the pacing was so horribly slow that I was bored to death by it and was desperate for it to be over by the first issue. With a plot as basic as this miniseries, where I already knew where it was going by the first issue, why did it have to be 4 issues long? They meet Mimic, now they have to go defeat him. Okay, why couldn't the writer have cut out all of the wasted space in the first issue and had their final showdown with him be at the end of it? Get rid of the beginning scene with Tangle and Jewel and all that other crap. I know Mimic can shapeshift, but that didn't mean it was worth frustrating us by showing him fooling the heroes effortlessly when they're being portrayed as smart before, just to try to take advantage of his powers. They could have been used in front of people who didn't know better.